Well, joining me from Washington is Dr. Margo Thorning, Chief Economist with the American Council for Capital Formation. Welcome to BBC News. These latest job losses, much worse than generally predicted. Why is that?
Well, the job loss number is unfortunate. It's risen from 6.5 to 6.7%, and approximately 12 million Americans are out of work. That is an extremely unfortunate high number. However, many analysts had predicted it would be 6.8 or even higher. So as bad as it is, it certainly could have been worse. And one of the possible some of the benefits that may come from that fall in oil prices that you mentioned is that now gasoline is much cheaper in the United States. That's going to help shipping industries, going to help people getting to their jobs. It's going to mean more money in their pockets to spend. So while the unemployment rate is certainly extremely bad, it's not as bad as it has been in our history. And we have hope that the very large stimulus package that was agreed to earlier this year and the additional support that's being provided, a number of $7 trillion has been calculated by some analysts as the amount that has been guaranteed or allowed to support flagging industries. $7 trillion is half of the U.S. gross domestic product, so that's an extremely large amount of support, fiscal stimulus and monetary policy, and we have hope that in the next quarter or two that will begin to take hold.
Some analysts, though, are predicting that the U.S. jobless rate could be as high as 8.5% by next year.
Well, it's possible. My feeling is that with the enormous amount of support that the federal government, the Congress, and the administration are providing to the U.S. economy, it's unlikely to rise to 8% or more, and I have hope that by the third quarter of next year, the unemployment rate will be declining. Falling oil prices will help. If the Obama administration embraces some tax cuts, for example, cutting corporate tax rates to stimulate investment, cutting personal tax rates, maintaining unemployment benefits for people who have lost their jobs, and possibly considering a temporary reduction on the tax on repatriated foreign earnings, that could also be a stimulus. That particular idea is being floated because that would be a tax that would be a private sector funded bailout. It would be an injection of about $500 billion into the U.S. economy, which would help corporate balance sheets, help them
briefly, if I could just interrupt, do you think this bad news on job losses might help the big three car makers who are making a case to Congress for a financial bailout?
I don't. It probably will add to pressure to be sure that the workers are not left totally stranded. It isn't clear what Congress will want to do. It's unlikely that the car makers will get the $35 billion that they've asked for. They may get some bridge loans, a smaller amount. But there is a lot of sentiment in Congress for letting these companies go into bankruptcy and reorganizing with a different wage structure and different set of relationships to try to keep them in business. Remember that Chrysler was bailed out in 1979 by the federal government, and Chrysler's now back asking for further help. So some members of Congress have concern about bailing out particular members of this industry that don't seem to have been able to design cars that people want to buy.
Okay, Dr. Margo Thorning, thank you very much for talking to BBC News.